Well, here it is. The first and certainly not the only first-party gadget for the GameCube that I'll be reviewing in this series. I think this is going to be an overall Nintendo GameCube specifically marathon, because we all know that the Wii has a lot more shit for it than I can count, and well, the GameCube seems like a good place to start since I actually have some of those add-ons still. Today I'll be strictly talking about the Game Boy Player. Now, Nintendo also has a peripheral that lets you hook your Game Boy Advance to the GameCube, but I'm going to be talking about that next week. But anyway, what the Game Boy Player essentially does is let you play, I'm going to say 99.95% of your Game Boy library on your GameCube. I say that because there are some compatibility issues with certain games, but I'm not going to talk about that. I guess this makes it the Super Game Boy 3. I mean, the N64 already had the technology for Super Game Boy 3 via the transfer pack, which I no longer have. But for some reason, we never got one. Anyway, we got the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. That allowed games to be played on the TV. So let's see what this thing can do. As you can tell from looking at my GameCube, that the player is mounted to the bottom through the high-speed serial port, which you can't really see, so I'm not going to try to show you. And you could leave this thing hooked up all the time, because it'll only start if you have the Game Boy Player startup disc, I'm gonna call it. Unlike the competing thing at the time, which was made to plug into the memory card slot and use a disc to start. Well, that was just emulation. This thing right here, I know you can't see it because the lighting is bad, but this used authentic Game Boy hardware. And there are several control options, which, let me get this thing booted up so I can show you. Hopefully I'll get something done, but I am just going to be doing this way. That way I could just upload this video with very minor changes, but you can either use a Game Boy Advance or anything that registers as a GameCube controller, first party, third party, etc. But I prefer using the GameCube controller because pressing the Z button brings up the menu with the different control options. And from right to left, we can change the game pack, set a timer, which I'm not going to do, change the amount of blurring. I'm going to say sharp is no blurring, normal is some, and soft is more. You can set the controller mapping, which I'm not going to do. You can make the size of the Game Boy display bigger or smaller, but I like this frame, so I'm going to keep it small. And you can change from one of, I think it's 20 frames. So just exit out of this. Select my save file for Link to the Past. Oh. Yay. But since I'm not going to be playing with one hand, I'm just going to pick this so that I have something going on in the background. there it is. Game Boy. Now, it would be on my TV, but I have my GameCube hooked up to my computer anyway. I do have it hooked up to that white box back there. That is allowing me to not only play it on the screen, but I can record too, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's how I record a lot of the older stuff, I guess. That's how I did the last video in this show. But I'm getting off topic. I mentioned earlier the Game Boy player is compatible with basically everything. But here's the other part of that statement. The Game Boy player is kind of fully compatible, but Game Boy games can only be played using selectable color palettes, which, if you give me a second to change the game pack, I will show you. So I'm gonna change game packs. Hit yes, because I want to change the pack. Now, hitting link to the pack. So I'll worry about that in a minute. Just gonna get an original Game Boy game pack. For this, I'm gonna use Monopoly to show you what I mean. Just give me a second here. This is hard with one hand, so don't mind the screen going black. And we're back, as you can see. Just like with the Game Boy Advance, it will stick out. So flat surfaces are your friend. But I'm gonna let this thing load up. But original Game Boy games can only be played using the Game Boy Color palette, which for Monopoly looks like that. And this thing is also compatible with the e-reader and some of the card games that go with that. But as you can see, Monopoly doesn't quite look like Monopoly, but it doesn't look all green and etc. The Game Boy player also supports the use of the wireless adapter, which was the wireless link cable, which again, I no longer have my hands on one. The Game Boy player does not support GBA video, cheating devices, motion sensors, the Game Boy Color's infrared function, or the Game Boy camera, which is fine. I've never used those anyway, so for me this is perfect. And it's definitely a nice treat to be able to play, well, I'm not gonna say Monopoly, but it's definitely nice to be able to play my version of Link to the Past on a bigger screen, because I never had the original. This was my first exposure to this game. So getting to play it on a TV is definitely nice. Just gonna put Link to the Past back in there. Give me 1 second. Actually, I think I'll just turn all this stuff off, because I'm about done here with what I can do with it for now. But I can't reach it, but I do have the cable that lets you connect the Game Boy Advance to the GameCube, so I'll be covering that next time. Anyway, as for the Game Boy player itself, I'd honestly recommend it to anybody who has a Nintendo GameCube. I mean, shoot, why not? You'd be expanding your library by literally every, well, not literally every, but mostly every Game Boy game you've had or currently have that still works. Some of them are starting to have aging problems, like I know my version of Pokemon Silver has the internal battery dried out, which I have to get a new one of those. Anyway, at the time, this was seen as a cheap, I'm going to say cheap, tactic for getting more people to buy Nintendo GameCubes. But really, it's part of what made the GameCube experience real for me. I mean, I've had this as long as, well, almost as long as I've had a GameCube, and it's been right there ever since. So I've never really had a problem with it. I would definitely recommend this thing if you have a Nintendo GameCube and you want the real Nintendo Game Boy playing experience on it. Because the other one just uses emulation, whereas this is authentic Game Boy hardware. So if you want to go fully authentic with your Game Boy on TV, this peripheral is definitely the way to go. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you do like this video, please check out some of my other videos. And like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Take care, everybody.